Job costing is an essential part of your financial life cycle to make sure that you're on track with your profits, but also you can course correct before it's too late. So when we're needing to job cost in JobTread, we're going to do so in our budget tab. You'll notice that we've already got past the estimating phase because we have a full budgeted cost for the project. Now this is populated by our approved proposal from our customer, and we can see it right here. So now we're ready to track all of our expenses against that approved budget. So the first column that we'll see here is the committed cost column. That is where we can track any vendor orders that basically commit your funds. Essentially, it's telling your vendors, hey, we plan to pay you if you do the job and do it well, but we're not quite ready to go ahead and send out the money yet. And this is also where you're tracking all your contracts with your vendors. So let's do a purchase order for our electrical. So we will click on plus document at the top. And now we'll choose our vendor order document called purchase order. And then we'll choose the vendor that we're working with where we would like to send out this purchase order. So Mangold Electric looks good, and we will select which items from the budget we want to include on this purchase order. So in this case, I'm going to include all my electrical items and click create. Perfect. Now we have our purchase order document and I can edit whatever I need to. So right here is a great place to put all of your scope of work. So I could say replace and ground all electrical. Great. And then also I can edit any of these items or groups if I want to by clicking on them and adding in additional scope of work or details or even uploading files, photos, and videos there. All right, I also can show or hide different levels of information on the document. So I can hide the quantity and unit in this case because we are just using lump sums. I don't really need to show that, it's more redundant. So I'll just show the totals. On the right-hand side, I have some settings. So I can add a subject to the document that's going to accompany the name of the document. So let's go ahead and say this is for electrical materials and labor. Okay. Now I do want to require that vendor signature, and when I'm ready, I'll go ahead and click save, and then we can choose an action up top like send. Okay, it's going to send to my primary contact within that vendor account, and I can put in the email message here and say we will start work on January 15th. Awesome, and then we'll hit send. So now that we have a pending document, we're going to wait for John Mangold to come in here and sign the document. So John will come in and approve this. And now we have an approved purchase order, and we will see that back in our budget. So if we scroll over to the job costing portion again, here you'll see that we have the committed cost for electrical, and it's informed by our purchase order document. Now, one of the main goals in JobTread is to make sure that we have a paper trail for every single dollar that's committed or that's moving. And so in order to create that paper trail, using documents is the best way to do so. All right, let's say that we also want to do that for our plumbing. And here in our plumbing lines, we actually already had a bid request that we sent out, we collected bids, and now we're ready to award the bid. So I'm going to select that bid request that we'd like to award, and I can convert a bid request directly into a vendor order so that I don't need to recreate it all. So here we have our submitted bid request, and then I can go to plus vendor order. And you'll see that I could choose my vendor order template. So we'll do our purchase order. And now this is essentially how we're awarding the bid out to our contractor so that they know that they're going to be doing the work. Okay, all that looks good. My scope carried over. Any file attachments will also carry over. So all I need to do is hit send and say congrats. We will be in touch. Great. Send it out. And now you'll see that Alan can pop in and sign this, saying that he acknowledges that purchase order, and we are ready to roll. All right, perfect. So that is our committed cost section, and now we had just populated it with our electrical and our plumbing commitments. The next column is the bills column, and this is where we're going to track actual expenses that we're making or anything that's ready to be paid out. So they could be vendor bills from our subcontractors, or we could be logging receipts as well. So let's go ahead and log a bill that maybe our electrical subcontractor sent us. So we'll go to the top and click plus document. And now you'll choose the vendor bill template you'd like to use. In this case, we'll choose bill. And then we'll choose our vendor once again. So I'm going to go with electric. And we are going to create this bill for the electrical items. Now this step is really important because we're going to enter in the amount that we're paying for this. So our committed costs are listed here. You can also toggle this to see the approved cost if you wanted to, if you didn't do a vendor order. But let's go ahead and enter these totals. We'll say $3,200 for labor, and maybe materials cost a little bit more and we approved them as we went. So we're gonna go ahead and say $1,000 for those materials. All right. Now we'll click create and you'll see that the bill is created. It also notifies you about anything that exceeds the amount that was in that original vendor order. So this way you're not overpaying your contractors. A good next step would be to upload the bill that that vendor sent you so that you have their paper trail attached to yours. And then when we're ready, we can send it out if we wanted to send it to our vendor. We also could approve it for payment on our end if we wanted to mark this as payable to be paid out, let's say on Tuesday when we cut our checks every week. Then you have a long list of payable bills ready to go. The other option is to record a payment. Now you can manually record the payment here by entering in the payment method, adding any notes, and then hitting save. The other option is to, if you're using QuickBooks Online, to mark it as paid in QuickBooks Online, and it will also be marked as paid here in JobTread. All right, now let's head back to our budget and see what happened. We'll scroll to the right. And you'll notice in the bills column, we do have the bill recorded and it does show in red where we went over budget. Perfect. Now, another shortcut is if you did have a purchase order or a vendor order of some type with that vendor, you could just open that original one. Here's our purchase order for plumbing, and you can convert a vendor order directly into a vendor bill. So we'll click plus vendor bill. And now we can choose our bill template and everything carried over, including that scope of work. So you don't need to re-enter or reselect that vendor, choose the line items anymore. Here you can make any adjustments to those cost items if you need to. And when you're ready to go, you're going to go ahead and either send, approve it for payment, or you can also record that payment too. All right, this looks good. We're going to pay by check. And maybe initially we're just paying out our materials. So I'll say materials only. In fact, I'm going to backdate this till last week and maybe we paid out the materials right at the beginning of the project and the material amount was $600. Okay, great. Now we can apply an additional payment against this bill by recording another payment after they do the work. And this will also be in check. And I will say labor only. Okay, that looks good. Hit save. And now you'll see that I have two payments against this one bill, and now it's fully marked as paid. All right. Now I do want to show you a shortcut for logging your expenses in JobTread. So as you had seen, when we create bill documents, we're going to create them by clicking plus document at the top. Well, there's also another option here where you can quickly record a receipt or a bill by clicking on the record expense button at the top right corner. Now this is accessible really easily on your mobile app, and so that way you can quickly log those receipts while you're on the go. So we'll click record expense, and now you'll see that you can select the job. And then you can choose the vendor. So we'll say that we purchased something from Home Depot recently. And then we can add in a description. The description is going to end up being the subject line on that bill document that we're kind of creating right now. So I'll go ahead and say that this is for miscellaneous finishing. And now let's go ahead and upload the receipt. We can either take a photo of it with our phone, or we can go ahead and just drop in the receipt here. Perfect. Now we can choose the items that we'd like to reconcile the receipt to. So I'm going to choose my finishing items, cleaning materials we'll say, and the first amount here is going to be $99. And then let's add an additional item as well. This one is going to be for finishing too and for accessories. And we will say this one is $194.70. Now, if you are choosing to collect tax on your bill documents, the tax line will show here, and so you can add the tax amount as well. $29.34, perfect, and then that should end up balancing out to the total on your receipt. Now you can also choose if you wanted to use a different document template for it. You can enter in the vendor's bill number if you'd like to, and then you can choose your QuickBooks Online integration options. So if you are choosing to go this route, what you're essentially doing is you're creating a bill on the back end by recording the expense here. So you can either click record payment, you could also approve it for payment, or you could click save and you can then apply a payment later on. So let's go ahead and choose record payment, and we are going to indicate that this was paid by card. Here's the number, and we'll click save. Now we have created an entire bill for this particular job, and you'll see it located in the bills section down here in finishing. Additionally, in the job costing section, you will be able to track time. The time cost and the hours columns will be populated when your employees clock in and out of JobTread, specifically when they clock in and out of this job. Then it will start tracking all of their hours and their time cost and how that is eating away at your labor items in your budget. Once you're ready and you feel that you've spent all that you need to within a cost item, you're going to mark that item as final. That will indicate to the system that you are done spending in that line, and it will update all of your profits on your profit section so that you can see what your final profits look like for the job. All right. Well, if you have any questions, please contact your success manager or email support@jobtread.com.